Hi, everybody. Just short feedback for the whole group on the agency description assignment. So the idea here today, I suppose I could make the screen a bit bigger, is to feedback on the draft or formative agency description assignment and a little bit about what's up next for on-the-job learning. The idea really here is that you get patterns across the whole range of the essays and may as well kind of share it with everybody, eh? Because there's various different bits of learning that might be helpful in other places. So this is what we ask you to do: agency, team, legislation, policy, and practice models. You'll cover these many times over the next 3 years, but learning how to reference these accurately and basically to build up a bank of stuff at this stage will be very helpful in the rest of your course, because you can recycle a lot of the stuff that you've identified in that assignment. These are the themes I'm going to cover. There is a Word document for this as well, which I'll attach. It's the same stuff, but in a little bit more detail. So it's kind of handy sometimes to have things in one format, isn't it? So you can see the 8 things that I intend to cover. 7 and 8 I'll actually do together, but let's not worry about that too much and crack on. So this is just a little thing about formatting your work. Now, it's a very minor consideration, I will accept that, but it makes a difference how you present yourself. We think about that, how we present ourselves in public, and in this instance, maybe how presenting ourselves in academic work might look. There's another little bit, which is that some typefaces are more difficult for people with dyslexia, some visual impairments and various things like that to read or access than others. So, thinking about this a little bit may have consequences or benefits in other areas of your written work. I mean, you spend a lot of time writing things, don't you? So really, Times New Roman is a serif font. That means it has all funny little curlicues and kind of little kind of bits at the top and bottom of letters, etc., etc. And a sans serif font is without decoration. I've got Arial, Verdana, Calibri here in this one, but there are tons of them. So maybe find a font or a typeface that you like and stick with it. Most importantly is the referencing. Now, this is a technical skill. You get better at it the more you do it. Once you've got the basics right, then you can extend that into some more obscure things, perhaps. Funny the amount of sources that we look in. You can go directly in a browser, just type in cite them right, and then you go. It'll give you a prompt for login. You'll get an option for institutional login, and you log in with your KU number in the same way that you normally would do. Or you can go through ICAT, type in cite them right in ICAT, and it'll actually show you an electronic book. It'll show you where the actual physical book is, and it'll give you an online option to access the website. So any of those works quite well. Oh, excuse me. I'm not going to stop though. So what do you need to know? Well, the 3 basic things at this stage are books, academic journals, and websites. And for all of these, you need to be able to cite them in the text and provide a full reference in your references. That's basically kind of how it works out. Usually when we're citing in the text, we usually have author and the year, and that's about it. You do not have to put the full quotation in your text. It eats up your word count besides anything else. And you don't have to put links either. All of that goes in the reference section. You can see those 3 things: books, academic journals, and websites. I mean, if you get that right, you'll have basically done the majority of things that you'll ever want to cite. Just a little funny thing about authors and years. Acts of Parliament are kind of slightly different. There's no brackets around the year. It's one of the kind of exceptions. There's exceptions to most rules. This is because the year of the act is always in the title of the act. So you don't need separate brackets. And in fact, if you put separate brackets around, it's incorrect. Just so you know. Small thing, but why not get it right? where do we get our evidence? Well, we default essentially really for robust evidence to books and academic journals. And there's a number of reasons for this. I'm preferring them over websites. Mainly articles and books have been peer reviewed, in fact, sometimes several times, and edited. And so they've had a lot of quality assurance processes. People who review them will have experience in that particular area of practice and so on. So, you know, there's a lot of kind of oversight and expertise that goes into pre-publication before they ever actually get released out into the world. Now, I'm not against websites, but if you're quoting things like strengths-based models or, I don't know, three houses, for example, in young people services or children and young people or children and families, find the original and maybe even read some of the original stuff around those themes, because you'll see them quoted again and again and again in websites. That really isn't telling me all that much. Just the website likes them, really. And you kind of think, I don't know if that's good enough for what we're looking for. Some websites, of course, are excellent. I've just put in two there. Nice and Sky, very robust, you know, authoritative probably, but still default always go to the original articles, find the original research, and read the book. Surprise, surprise. So legislation and policy is a little bit different. I've already said about acts of parliament. We had the Care Act. We have the Children Act. Yes, it is children, not children's. And yeah, I do know there are more acts. The UK site where pretty much all UK legislation is that little link there. So that is quite useful for when you're citing articles or referencing them fully. That's where you can go. The plural of legislation is legislation, not legislations, just so you know. But you also need policy and guidance. So the law tells us what we should and should not do, what we can and cannot do, and things of that nature. The guidance policy usually either refines or extends the law or kind of tells you what you can do in practice. So I've given two examples there, care and support guidance from the government and the London Safeguarding Children Procedures, which are a kind of pan-London document and mostly social services in our children's departments in London are going to be referring to that because I have to tell you, it's rather voluminous. Anything that you wanted in terms of practice, you could find there. So the law up here, and then the policy or guidance is about how we actualize the law, what we actually do in practice on a day-to-day basis. And we need to get our heads around both of those things. Ask you about local area population. Generally, it's kind of good to know who lives in my local area and is that what my team looks like? Because we are thinking about continually throughout the course about those kind of who's represented, whose voices gets heard. And it's kind of an interesting kind of reflection to think about. I put in a few examples here about where you can find that kind of information. There was a joint strategic needs assessment in Kingston, and I thought, okay, fair enough. And I had a huge amount of information about the borough profile, services available, and things like that. I decided to move along, go and see another whatchamacallit, source of information about local authorities. There's some nice stuff in the Croydon Observatory and generally the Office for National Statistics because they have huge amount of data on all sorts of things, including data on every single borough in the country. Again, that might be a handy source of information when you're trying to find out who lives here and things of that nature. Practice models is really quite important. So a lot of time you'll hear that your local authority uses a certain kind of practice models, theory, or approach. And I just picked out strengths-based, person-centered, science of safety, systemic practice, restorative justice, because you told me that that's what you were using. Now, that wasn't very surprising to me, but a lot of the time, the information you have about those might be a kind of a handout from a training event and things like that. So really, you are involved in an academic course and learning. So my strong advice, this sounds familiar to something I said already, is go and read the stuff. go back to the originals, check them out and see what else you can learn from reading these things, because you find more depth, nuance, reading about these perhaps than you would get from a training event in your local authority. One little thing that you could check out is the reading list in the module, because that is composed almost entirely of things that previous years of previous cohorts of the apprentices have cited. So I nick these things and I put them on the website, exactly what I'll be doing with the references that you have offered. If you don't cite references and get used to doing it this year, then we will really annoy you by permanently saying, please cite the reference, please, and you will just get irritated and probably dispirited. So the best thing, get used to doing it now. If you're saying strengths-based or person-centered, very, very common models available across all of social work, find somebody who wrote about this, read a little bit about it, build up that resource and evidence bank that you will need in future essays, and on you go. Just two little things here about word count and confidentiality. These weren't such a problem. I think he kept in the word count in the main, and confidentiality, I didn't see anything disastrous in this regard, but it's worth always reiterating. Don't go over the word count. Sometimes people say, oh, Dermot, are we entitled to 10% more, 10% less? No, you're not. Some other universities do that. Kingston, in its wisdom, debatable, have decided a different approach. So what they tell us as markers to do is, once you have reached the word count, we're not allowed to mark beyond that point. That could be a bit of a problem in an extended essay, because let's just say you're 200 words over. That's your final paragraph where you kind of summarize and synthesize what you've been saying beforehand. And you can see how that might be a bit of a difficulty for you in your essay. So don't go over the word count. Happy to have conversations about how you reduce the word count. That takes a bit of a longer conversation than is available to us today, because I want this feedback to be short. But we could have that conversation. And confidentiality, just in general, I think you know this already, but never use actual PLE names in your work. Don't like let a PLE name creep in, for example, to your portfolio. And I mean first and second names. I don't even really like all that much initials. In some places, that might be a little bit of an identifiable kind of pair letter. Preferably not. Make up a new name. I noticed that we have a typo in this particular thing. Gull policy. That's the Kingston University policy. Both of those policies and other policies in relation to your academic work are all on, in fact, every website, every module Canvas website, they're all there. Hopefully you don't have to look at them too much, and you will just take my word for it, but maybe it'd be worth checking out some of these things in our time. So to you. So just a little bit of thinking forward. What's up next? Looking forward, we always look back. Clumsy analogy, but forgive me. So current progress is really good. You seem to be settling into on-the-job learning. Bit of a transition, but you seem to be getting the hang of it. Pretty much all the apprentices, but not everyone, have mentors. That's kind of worrying for us. Mentors are an essential part of support. I don't want to freak anyone out if they haven't got a mentor at the moment, but I guarantee you we will be pushing for you to have a mentor. We know now, we're 3 years through this course, that apprentices really value that relationship. I wouldn't go so far as to say as the apprentice's success depends on it, but it certainly contributes a lot. Assignments seem to be going well, and the whole cohort, that's our basic aim, that everybody progresses, and that's what's happened so far. So you've done transitions, yay, foundational knowledge and skills, way, and you're kind of getting through law, policy, and ethics. I sat in one of the classes, really enjoyed that. You got online test, of course. I think that's the 12th of March. Is that right date? But at any event, you have two elements, the online test and the final essay. So really, you've done half, in fact, more than half of the work required for the course today. You are progressing on the job, and of course we'll have the 5th of June the portfolio, on 12th to 13th the vivas. I will be sending out guidance about those things near the time, so don't worry about it for the moment. You've got enough to do, but there will be some information about that coming to you soon. What kind of thing are you thinking about at the moment? Completing and reviewing the second mentoring agreement. If you haven't done it already, please do that quickly. Get on with it. Talk to your SRA if you're having problems. There may be all sorts of reasons why it hasn't been possible to do. That's fine. Stuff happens. Do you know what I mean? But try to crack on with that as soon as possible, because we are moving to a new level of the PCF, and we're introducing the apprenticeship standards, and there is quite a bit of learning to be done around those things. Probably review this around the end of March, thereabouts. Talk to your SRA again. But in particular, pay attention to the learning opportunities section, because that sets out your ambition for the rest of the term, as it were. And keep your index of evidence up to date. Just keep that rolling all the time. Add to it as frequently as you possibly can. It's generally a good idea. You'll have a second direct observation, but that usually is going to be after the midway, so maybe April, May, something like that. You will negotiate that with your mentor and the SRA, and in the main, it's going to be your mentor doing that. Try to focus on direct work, some actual work you do with a person. There will be a reflection on learning, and we'll do a draft on that in mid-April. I will feedback on those drafts as quickly as I possibly can. And again, more detail to follow, because that seems like a long time away. Not that long, really, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. But we don't have to worry about it too much right now. And of course, you can see the portfolios, final assessments for the module. And as I said already, repetition again, Dermot, you will have more guidance in them the nearer we get to it. That's all, folks. That's all for me today. And if you have any questions about anything that I've talked about there, please do contact me. Questions are always good. I tend to share the questions with people, because if you've got a question about it, chances are you're not the only person that does. So I think I will just turn off record now. I'm just looking for the button, and see you later. Take care. Bye.